Okay, so have you ever hit submit on a job application and then just wondered, like, what actually happens behind that digital curtain?
Mm.
Or maybe you're on the other side, right? Staring at hundreds, maybe thousands
Yeah.
of applications, trying to find that needle in the haystack.
Yeah, it's overwhelming.
Welcome to Cresyx Deep Dive. This is our second episode, and each week we're diving deep into one of the really big topics in AI ethics, its impact on society. We want to try and put things in perspective for you.
And today we're really digging into the, well, fascinating and sometimes, frankly, pretty fraught world of artificial intelligence in recruitment. It's a space that's changing incredibly fast, and it affects almost everyone.
It really does.
Yeah.
Our mission here today is to unpack how AI is actually being used in hiring right now. What are the big ethical questions it raises? Because there are quite a few.
Oh, definitely.
And importantly, what's being done or what can be done to make sure it's fair and transparent. We're pulling insights from all over, places like Recruitment Smart, academic journals like the Computer Law and Security Review, and even looking at regulations popping up in places like New York City.
Yeah, and this isn't just, an HR chat. It's really about how this tech is shaping our careers, our opportunities, the whole future workforce, really. Understanding this helps you see the invisible forces kind of pulling the strings in the job market today, whether you're looking for a job, hiring, or honestly just curious about AI's ripple effects.
Absolutely. And if this kind of exploration grabs you, definitely hit subscribe to the Deep Dive right here on Cresyx Deep Dive. You won't want to miss our future episodes on these critical topics.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump in. The big why first. Why are companies so keen on using AI for hiring? What's the appeal?
That's the place to start, isn't it? Fundamentally, it boils down to efficiency and scale. The argument is that AI brings huge benefits.
Yeah.
It speeds everything up. It can crunch massive data sets that no human team could possibly manage. It streamlines screening, and this is a big claim, it could potentially reduce human bias.
And there are some pretty eye-popping examples of that efficiency, right? Like Unilever. I think Wikipedia mentions their AI went through, 250,000 applications?
Yeah, something like that. And the result was slashing hiring time from months to weeks.
4 months to 4 weeks, saving like 50,000 hours of work. That's huge.
It looks fantastic on paper, absolutely. But, and this is a big but, this is exactly where we need to hit the brakes and talk about the peril. There's this myth, right, that AI is neutral, purely logical. But Recruitment Smart nails this in their article on AI bias. They say neutrality is a myth. AI systems learn from our data, and if our data reflects existing biases, the AI doesn't just reflect them, it often amplifies them. It basically automates inequality.
Wow. So it's not deliberately biased, but it becomes this super efficient echo chamber for our own past mistakes.
Yeah.
That's concerning. Can you give us some concrete examples? Where has this gone wrong?
Oh, definitely. There's a stark one from an MIT Media Lab study, Recruitment Smart Sites, facial recognition software. It had an error rate of nearly 35% for darker-skinned women.
35%.
Compared to less than 1%, 0.8% for lighter-skinned men. That's not a small glitch. That's a fundamental failure for a whole group of people.
That difference is just staggering.
And then, of course, the famous Amazon case back in 2018. Lots of sources mention this one. They built an AI tool to screen resumes.
Right. I remember hearing about this.
And they had to scrap it because it learned to penalize resumes with words like women's or resumes from women's colleges. It just learned from Amazon's own hiring history, which was, predominantly male in tech roles at the time.
That's such a clear example of historical bias just getting baked right in. It makes you wonder, if the AI is just learning from the past, how do you even break that cycle? Are we just stuck automating the status quo?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? As Recruitment Smart points out, these systems learn from what used to happen. So if, historically, a company hired mostly male engineers, the AI looks at that data and essentially concludes, okay, being male is a good indicator for success in this role. That's historical bias in action. It's everywhere.
And I've heard it can get even sneakier than that, with something called proxy discrimination. What's that about? Sounds complex.
It is subtle and, pretty insidious. The Computer Law and Security Review talks about this. Proxy discrimination is when the AI uses information that seems neutral on the surface.
Okay.
But that information actually acts as a stand-in, a proxy, for a protected characteristic like race or gender, even if you've told the AI not to look at race directly.
So, like, what kind of information?
Could be anything. Your address, maybe schools you attended, even, as some research suggests, things like how you move your mouse during an online assessment. The AI figures out correlations you might not even be aware of.
Wow. That's almost undetectable from the outside then. So the algorithm isn't trying to be biased, but the result is still skewed against certain groups.
Exactly. That's what legal folks call disparate impact. BCS AI mentions this too. No intent, but the outcome is discriminatory. And it gets worse. Think about performance reviews feeding the AI Wikipedia notes. These are often subjective, right? They might already favor certain groups. So, biased performance data then trains the AI to make biased hiring predictions.
Like a vicious cycle.
Yeah.
And what about pulling info from outside, like social media? That seems like a privacy nightmare waiting to happen.
It absolutely is. AI scanning social media can pick up on things like race, religion, sexual orientation, stuff that's legally protected just from your connections or tags. The Wikipedia source points to a study where almost half of hiring managers use social media.
45%.
Yeah. And 70% rejected candidates based on what they found. But here's the kicker. Only 17% thought using social media that way was maybe a privacy issue.
That's a massive disconnect. Okay, let's get more specific. Where exactly is AI popping up in the hiring pipeline beyond just scanning data? What are the tools causing these ethical headaches?
It's showing up pretty much everywhere. First, you've got the screeners, basic function. Scan resumes for keywords, experience, degrees, like Wikipedia mentions. The promise is, hey, maybe it avoids bias against, say, certain names. But again, if the training data is biased...
The screener will be too. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Okay. What about actually finding people?
That's recruitment and targeted ads. AI helps companies target job ads on Facebook, Google, LinkedIn, job boards.
How does that work?
It builds lookalike audiences. It analyzes your current employees, maybe the ones considered successful, and then targets ads to people with similar online profiles, demographics, interests.
Wait, okay. Targeting ads based on current employees.
Mhm.
How does that not just reinforce the existing workforce makeup? Doesn't that exclude people who don't fit the current mold?
That's been hugely controversial. Wikipedia highlights this. These ad algorithms are often black boxes, proprietary. You, as a job seeker, often have no idea why you don't see a particular job ad. It limits opportunity. Facebook actually had to remove age and gender targeting for job ads because of exactly these bias concerns.
Okay, that makes sense. What about interviews? Are we actually talking to bots now?
Increasingly, yeah. You've got AI chatbots first, like Humanly, mentioned in a Fair Now case study. They do initial screening questions, schedule interviews, maybe even take notes.
Okay, chatbots I can sort of see, but actual interviews.
Yep. Then there are AI-powered video interviews, think HireVue, which
Yeah.
Wikipedia mentions. You record your answers, and the AI analyzes not just what you say, but potentially your facial expressions, your tone of voice, your gestures.
Analyzing gestures, that feels incredibly subjective, even for an AI. Where's the ethical line there?
That's the core problem. BABL-AI calls this the black box issue. It's incredibly hard for employers, let alone candidates, to understand how the AI reaches its conclusions based on these things. And that lack of transparency kills trust. The Computer Law and Security Review suggests candidates sometimes feel they'd rather deal with potential human bias, the devil they know, than an inscrutable algorithm, the devil they don't.
Okay, so the problems are pretty clear. Bias baked in, these opaque systems, serious trust issues. So what's being done? Are companies just throwing up their hands, or are there actual fixes being developed?
No, there's definitely proactive work happening. It's crucial. Recruitment Smart, for example, talks about their Sniper AI framework. They have a multi-stage approach to tackling bias head-on.
Okay, so what's stage one? Trying to stop bias before it even gets near the AI.
Exactly. Bias prevention before training even starts. This means seriously vetting and balancing the data. They strip out things like names, locations, even specific universities because, as they say, your postcode shouldn't determine if you get an interview. Trying to stop bias from sneaking in through those proxies we talked about.
That makes sense. Clean the data first. But what happens once the AI starts learning? How do you keep it on the straight and narrow?
That's bias mitigation during the training process. They use techniques like adversarial debiasing. Think of it like having one part of the AI try to predict hires, and another part trying to guess protected attributes like gender from those predictions.
Ah, like a check and balance.
Exactly. The system basically penalizes the hiring part if the guessing part gets too good at identifying gender, forcing it to focus only on relevant skills. They also might give more weight to data from underrepresented groups so their profiles aren't ignored. And they run constant what-if tests, change just the gender on a profile, see if the AI outcome changes, if it does. Back to the drawing board to fix that bias.
So it's a continuous quality control during development. What about after it's built and running? How do they make sure it stays fair?
Post-training monitoring. It's not set and forget. They constantly track performance, like how often are different demographic groups getting shortlisted. And they look at intersections too, not just women, but maybe women in tech with career breaks, groups where bias can be hidden. They reported some pretty impressive results with Sniper AI, a 37% drop in unconscious bias markers and a 50% boost in DE&I metrics.
Those are big numbers.
Yeah.
And transparency must be key to making people trust this, right?
Absolutely critical. Sniper AI, for instance, aims to make it really clear why someone was shortlisted. It lists the skills, the experience that matched. No black box. If a recruiter or even a candidate asks why, the reasoning should be there.
So it's tech, but humans are still involved. It's not full automation.
That's maybe the most important part. The idea of the human in the loop. Recruitment Smart, BABL, AI, SHRM, they all stress this. AI is a tool for recruiters, not a replacement. Humans review the AI's suggestions, make the final decisions, they can tweak settings. And crucially, recruiter feedback gets fed back into the system to improve it. Fairness isn't just coded in once. It evolves through that human interaction and oversight.
It sounds like a constant battle then, not a one-and-done fix.
It really is. Recruitment Smart makes that point. Bias can creep back in as things change, so you need those real-time checks, maybe annual external audits, to keep it fair and compliant.
So beyond what individual companies are doing, what about the law? Are regulators stepping in to put up some guardrails here? It feels needed.
Definitely needed. And yes, regulation is catching up, which is good. A really significant one is NYC Local Law 144. Fair Now has a good breakdown. Basically, it says employers in New York City cannot use these automated employment decision tools, AEDTs, unless they've had an independent third-party bias audit.
Independent audit, that sounds serious. What do they check for?
They look specifically at outcomes based on gender, race, ethnicity, and importantly, the intersections like Black women, Hispanic men, etc. They use metrics like selection rates and impact ratios. If one group's selection rate is less than 80% of the highest group's rate, that 4/5 rule, it raises a major red flag for bias.
And companies have to publish these audits.
Annually, yes. And they also have to tell candidates they're using an AEDT and offer an alternative way to be assessed if one exists.
That's a big step for transparency and candidate rights, what's happening internationally. Europe is usually pretty active on tech regulation.
Very active. The EU AI Act is the big one there. CARV calls it the GDPR for artificial intelligence. It's huge, comprehensive, just got formally approved in March 2024 and will roll out fully over the next couple of years.
GDPR for AI, okay, so legally binding, serious stuff. How does it work?
It's risk-based. AI systems get categorized unacceptable risk, banned outright, like social scoring or manipulative AI. High risk, limited risk, minimal risk. And guess where recruitment tools fall?
High risk.
Yep, high risk. And for those systems, the Act mandates really strict standards. Data quality, transparency, robust human oversight, record-keeping, accuracy, security, even requiring fundamental rights impact assessments before they can be used.
Wow. And if companies don't comply, big fines, like GDPR.
Very big. CARV mentions penalties up to $35 million or 7% of global annual revenue, whichever is higher. So, serious teeth. And beyond these big laws, you have guidance from bodies like the EEOC in the U.S., which BBL AI notes also pushes for transparency, fairness, and accountability.
Okay, so the legal wheels are turning.
Yeah.
But, beyond compliance checklists, what does fairness even mean in this context? It still feels slippery, like everyone might define it differently.
It absolutely is slippery. The Computer Law and Security Review paper on fairness really digs into this. Fairness isn't one single thing. It means different things to different people involved.
Can you unpack that a bit? Like, what does a job applicant consider fair versus the person doing the hiring?
Right. So for job applicants, fairness is often about the process. Is it actually related to the job? Is it applied consistently? Do I get a real chance to show what I can do? Is it objective? And beyond that, they want respect, honesty, empathy, basically, to be treated like a human being, not just data.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
What about the HR side?
Well, HR practitioners often focus more on person-job fit, finding the best candidate for that specific role, which serves the employer's interests. And sometimes that focus can clash with broader goals, like increasing diversity. The law tends to focus on procedural fairness, like the applicants want, but still struggles with those sneaky issues like proxy discrimination or intersectionality, where someone faces bias based on multiple factors combined, like being an older woman of color. Current laws don't always capture that complexity well.
So even with new rules, we're still grappling with the fundamental meaning of fairness, and it's constantly shifting. Okay, last big question. Zooming out, what does all this mean for the future of work itself? Are the robots taking our jobs, or is it more complicated?
The eternal question. There's definitely that debate. Some studies mentioned on Wikipedia suggest, yeah, maybe up to 47% of jobs are vulnerable to automation from AI and robotics. Some call it the fourth industrial revolution.
That's the scary headline version.
It is. But many other experts argue it's maybe overstated or that it's less about elimination and more about collaboration. Humans and machines working together. AI handles the repetitive, data-heavy
Like
lifting.
sifting those 250,000 resumes.
Exactly. Freeing up humans for the stuff AI can't do well, creative thinking, complex problem solving, empathy, nuanced judgment. Think back to Unilever. Those saved hours likely allowed HR folks to focus on more strategic work, not just sorting applications. It's about augmenting us, not just replacing us.
That's a more hopeful perspective. It's not just if AI is involved, but how we integrate it thoughtfully.
Precisely.
So wrapping up, we've seen AI in hiring is this double-edged sword, isn't it?
Yeah.
Incredible efficiency, yes, but a huge responsibility to tackle those built-in biases and make sure outcomes are fair. From the data it learns from to subtle proxy issues, the risk of automating discrimination is very real.
Very real. But we're also seeing real effort to fight back. Companies like Recruitment Smart developing sophisticated anti-bias tools, focusing on transparency and keeping humans firmly in the loop. Plus, the regulatory landscape is finally waking up with things like NYC's audits and the EU AI Act setting much-needed standards.
Yeah, this deep dive really shows that fairness in AI isn't some destination you arrive at. It's this ongoing process, right? Constantly checking, adjusting, improving, with people guiding the technology. It's a real balancing act.
So the big question left hanging is, as AI gets even more woven into how we find talent, what will fairness even look like down the road? What new standards will we need to demand to make sure everyone, everywhere, truly gets a fair shot? How do we get the efficiency without sacrificing human dignity and opportunity?
Lots to think about there. We really hope this deep dive gave you a clearer picture of this complex and vital topic. Join us next time on the Deep Dive for another exploration into AI ethics and its impact on our world, helping put things into perspective for you.